Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher, Stephen Ford, Mike Haspel, and Sean Nate. What's up, Cass?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Hello, Pottery Barn Basics.
What do we say? What do we say to the god of death?
Oh. Sorry, he ruined your delivery.
I know.
I'm sorry.
He laughed after his own joke. He broke.
Pottery Barn.
I'm going to start using that. I'm trademarking that.
Pottery Barn Basics.
I was marked safe during the big FAQ 3 of 2019.
Ooh, I like that.
Man, you were jumping the gun. We haven't even talked about Ricky Bobby. We haven't talked about
feces,
prison, your mama.
That's right.
We haven't talked about, I mean,
I just
am I talking about a country western song or am I talking about 40K?
Yeah. I believe, Kenny, that day that we were drunk.
The day your mama got out of prison?
Got out of prison. I believe we went to pick her up.
In the rain?
Yep.
But before we can get there, she got run over by a dang old pickup truck?
Or a train.
Or a train.
Yep.
Nice.
I do believe that is the perfect country western song.
That's right. So, not too much happened this week in a lot of people's lives, but damn it, you are involved in Warhammer 40K, it is a brand new world. I'll go as far to say is, Stargate SG. What's the newest one? Whatever the latest one versus
Stargate
SG1 versus
Universe.
There it is. Obviously, that was not a good analogy. I'm gonna keep it going.
That was terrible.
But
is that like Spice Girls World?
It is.
Okay,
that's a good one.
It was a great 4 days for nerds, right? Endgame.
Oh yeah.
Game of Thrones, new FAQs.
$1.2 billion.
Oh, it broke, dude. Yeah, you thought it was gonna be 900. You thought it was 900. Remember?
I thought it was 900 million. 1.2 billion. So, yeah, amazing.
Is that all times? Does that pone down Titanic
for opening weekend? Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. It does everything but Gone with the Wind. When you
adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, when you adjust, no one's beaten Gone with the Wind. It made like $4 billion adjusted. It's
really?
Something ridiculous. Yeah, it's something stupid. Well, it played in the theaters for like years.
Yeah.
So you can't compare it.
It was a different time, different place.
Yeah, it was a different time.
But yeah, so in the sea of just nerdgasm weekend, we do have
nerd paroxysms.
And luckily, we have so much Warhammer stuff to talk about. We can't even spoil the two nerd.
You're lucky. We don't have time. We wanted to.
We don't have time.
Yeah, no time. Bingo time.
We barely have time for tabletop.
Oh, you know what? I can take it to another Will Ferrell reference. When you say I don't have enough time, I mean it's gonna be a good little Saturday. Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot. I don't know if we'll have enough time. That fulfills our Ricky Bobby quote.
Yeah,
we're gonna cover the new. We're gonna cover the FAQ.
That was old school.
Oh, old school, man. That movie was. So, guys, we're going to be bringing back our What's New in the FAQ segment. We're going to be covering not everything. It's impossible. But we will cover Death Watch, the Knights, Eldar, G-Seal, Occult, Chaos, Forge Ruled Units, Grey Knights, Assassins. We got a lot of things to cover. We're going to jump into that pretty quick. It's going to take a minute, though. We got enough subjects for every person and then some. So we're not going to be cluttering this episode with a lot of other things. This is the table of contents. Rob, Tabletop Market, please.
I have no poo story this week, but give it time.
Well, I don't think we have enough time.
Oh, that's perfect. This lines up good. So I have a very robust and wide and girthy Tabletop Market watch. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Coming soon to a pre-order near you is the Loon Curse starter box set for Age of Sigmar, $160. That's it. For Games Workshop.
That's what we got?
Was it?
All right.
New Sigmar terrain is on deck. New silhouette.
Got it.
Is it
one? You can't just say that's it after every new thing.
Well, those aren't confirmed.
Oh,
those aren't confirmed. So, just next week, the Loon Curse.
Mike, do you have anything?
I actually do have something, and it's something near and dear to my heart. And I'm just going to start listing off some things, right? Dare, the touch, right? Instruments of destruction, hunger, right? These are some critical classic songs that anybody who loves Transformers the movie absolutely knows by heart. And there is a band out there of robots called Cybertronic Spree. And they do the Lord's work, going out and proselytizing the greatness that is Transformers the movie in the days before Michael Bay. And
we're talking about the 80s cartoon movie for anyone out there.
Yes, the one where Megatron like just blew up Ironhide and made kids cry like in the first 5 minutes.
Just straight bacon.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. If you haven't seen it yet, tough break. Ironhide dies. Like badly. Right at the beginning. So the Cybertronic Spree have a Kickstarter where they're doing a cover album of all those classics.
You've got to touch.
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. Ooh. So go check it out. If you like Transformers the movie, go support them. You know,
would you say that when all hell's breaking loose, you're right at the eye of the storm?
Yeah, I would say that.
That's the accurate description of the situation.
Yeah,
that was a big deal, right? Because that was the first time an Autobot had died.
That was the first time, an Autobot died, and they said the word shit.
They said a curse, a swear word.
Yeah. In a Transformers movie, when Ultra Magnus could not open the matrix of leadership.
Yep.
Is it sad that I remember more about that movie than my own life last week?
Are you sure it was him? I thought it was Spike, the human Spike, who said shit. Like right at the moon base.
No, it was Ultra.
No, it was Ultra Magnus. He was trying to open.
They said some other stuff.
Do you remember that glitchy ass scene where like they pull out the leadership matrix and they open it, but it's like a frame stutter, even in the anniversary edition?
Oh yeah,
you remember that? That's so weird.
Oh man,
dude. Okay, so there's some realness going on in the chat.
Ultra Magnus said, "Damn it, I knew it."
Ultra Magnus said,
"Spike said shit."
He did. I stand corrected.
That's what I'm.
The real
I Tabletop Market Watch. I'm raising my hand. Was someone calling me?
Sure.
Yo, the sequel to Willow is in the works.
Is that a Kickstarter or is that real?
No,
that's
like
real by Disney.
It's like a TV show, I thought.
It's on Disney Plus. Yes.
Sequel series confirmed to be talked with Disney right now. It's in the works.
Disney Plus is putting out a lot of stuff for their new their new streaming service. I read somewhere that they're planning to operate at over $1 billion loss to start.
Wow.
Damn.
That's how hard they're going?
That's how hard they're going to catch up. And it's only $7 a month or $69.99 for the whole year.
Well, I'm buying that.
Let me tell you what.
At release, there's a Mandalorian show with Jon Favreau directing. And there's some Marvel stuff. And the Marvel stuff is with like real actors, real characters, and integrated in the MCU, not like more so than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of the other Netflix shows.
Ooh.
So
wow.
Yeah,
I did
SmackDown.
I did forget something. Chat reminded me. The Dracon from Creature Caster will be out this week on pre-order for
that's right. That's right. And also, if we're talking about promoting, let's talk about Mike Disney's GoFundMe for 1 second. Is that cool?
Yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah, I'll put the link in chat here.
Mike Disney is a content creator on Twitch. You guys, if you haven't been on Twitch, you might not know about him, but it's Mike Disney. It reminded me of it because we were just talking about Disney, spelled the same way. If you guys go and GoFundMe and you're listening to this, all you gotta do is search in Mike Disney. You'll find it. What makes this GoFundMe special is that all the community rallied together. All these content creators built a GoFundMe for my man. He's one of the coolest dudes on the internet. He's fallen on hard times. You can read about it on the GoFundMe, but essentially Man's been on a disability, can't work, he's injured. They pulled that. Still doesn't change the fact that he can't work. So he's basically been really depressed. Things have been going bad for him, and he's in a situation where he's like, I can't pay rent next month. So the community's rallied together. They're hooking him up. People are doing fundraisers all over Twitch. You see a lot of great content creators out there supporting it. But if you guys could just search him, just trust me. If you could trust me for one thing, I joke a lot. That dude is the best. He's so fucking cool. I have literally sat here in this room, in this Beats Lab, just listening to indie hip hop with the guy while he paints models and talks shit for hours. The guy is the best. Definitely check him out. Mike Disney, GoFundMe. Throw the man at least a 5 spot. Something, anything will help. Thank you. And now with that, we can move on to what's new in the FAQ.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pulling out.
Owens went up in price.
I'm pulling out. Yes, I'm pulling out my legal pad. Anybody who can't see this is become a staple of my operation.
This is Kenny being organized.
I turns out I bought like 38 of them. I didn't realize how much was in a fucking stack of these. I bought them for the Longwood doubles. So I pull out a new one every time I need to write something and throw the old one away. That's how I roll.
Use one page. It's done.
It's done.
Garbage.
So we're going to start it off by talking about two things, just open-endedly. Death Watch and Knights. This is going to be a group discussion. These are two things the internet's talking about. Let's start with Death Watch. Rob.
I think they're still good. I think the bolter discipline was a little over the top with the special issue ammunition, being able to have to select which one you're using when you go to fire, or not being able to combo them. I think it's still fine, because if you do the math on it, this was my old playtest. I was still dropping demon princes with the old way with 5 dudes. So like, you can't really be that mad. They're still very powerful and very relevant, in my opinion, in these days post FAQ.
Yeah, and it's not like they don't get access to the beta bolter rule. They just can't use their special ammo. So you have that option tactically to select where you can sit back and try to pepper hordes and stay away. And then when you start to close, your damage output just gets stronger the closer you get to your opponent.
I'll be a naysayer. They're not terrible. They were auto include. If you're building Imperium list 3 days ago, 2 days ago, if you couldn't even justify a patrol of a Watchmaster and 2 units of them, you weren't doing it right. I can make an argument left and right. With this concept that, you know, they can't do what they will at 24 inches, at whatever else, you know, all the points that you're spending and keeping these units, you know, alive with storm bolters and extra terminators, or excuse me, with storm shields and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they're in auto include, considering Blood Angels just got their Smash Captains back that we remember from, you know, 9 months ago. So if you're telling me if I'm building a mixed Imperium detachment, army, excuse me, I don't know if I have to automatically include Death Watch, where 3 days ago I did.
Give me a summary. Let's bring it back to facts. What changed about Death Watch specifically? We know that the bolter beta rule, they can't do that and use special ammunition, but other things changed, like deep striking and unit inclusion, correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
the bike
they're
element.
mixed unit.
Oh, yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't realize, the Death Watch, they are consistent of a lot of different kind of unit types. So you can have a bike, a Terminator, a Vanguard vet, just regular walking guy. So part of one of the cool things that you can do as well for 2CP, almost anything in the decks that you would want, infantry and dreadnought wise, for 2CP, you can deep strike them fools. Well, now if you have one of the cool units with inside of your unit, that bike element, which gives you a special ability, mind you, it's not one of the key special abilities, but it still is in effect. The bike gives that entire unit the ability to fall back and charge in the same turn. If you have that bike unit, right? And then so there is some subtle nuances to having a bike within the unit, because it can move farther than everyone else. So if you are on a flank, right, that guy can reach out and touch, or you can put the bike in the center. And if you're strung out over 18 inches or 12 inches, you really push the limits to your models. That bike unit can move his full distance, right, and catch up and be on either one of the sides of the ends of the unit. So there is some movementness that bike unit does bring to the table, but you can't spend the 2 CP. You're not eligible to spend the 2 CP to deep strike that unit.
Like you said, not a grain breaker. They're trying to fall back and shoot. That's what the jump back guy does. So
that's what they truly want.
Take a second Terminator, GG, nothing changes. At the end of the day, I agree with what Drew says. They're not auto include. They're still real fucking good, and they can still use the bolter better rule, as Sean says. I know, Haspel, do you have any input on that? Have you played any Deathwatch?
I do have a Deathwatch army, and the thing that would have hurt my army, I haven't played them in 8th yet, but the thing that would have hurt my army the most on this is that they took away the bolter beta from vehicles, right?
Yeah, you love your Corvus Black Stars.
I have 3 Corvus Black Stars. I adore them, right? And a Corvus Black Star with Hurricane Bolters and the bolter beta rule the old way would decimate things. Now it's kind of just back to normal.
Some people, specifically one person in the chat, thinks that we're wrong about the bikes not being able to deep strike.
Fixed unit. Go to the FAQ.
For the purposes of bolter discipline ability and for determining what models and vehicles can transport Terminators, have the Terminator keyword. Bikers do not have the infantry keyword, and instead have the biker keyword. And Vanguard veterans have the jump pack keyword. For somebody in chat thinks that means they can still deep strike. He said, and says big students can 100% deep strike. So that will be fact checked while we move on to the next subject, because we're not going to derail the show. If it turns out that we are wrong, it'll be one of 1,000 times we are wrong. We're going to move on to Knights. Something we've been talking about for almost, it feels like years at this point, but not really. Castellan, give me the breakdown right there, Sean. I'll give you guys the breakdown.
I have the fix, but I have the correction. So under Teleportarium, replace the second sentence with the following: for each CP center stratagem, you can set up either the Deathwatch that only contains infantry or Deathwatch Dreadnought and a Teleportarium.
That's right. That's what I was looking for, the stratagem. The stratagem and the Teleportarium is a stratagem, 1 to 3 CP. It is only reserved to infantry and dreadnoughts. So you cannot deep strike a mixed unit that has a biker keyword in it. The Castellan. So the Castellan went up 100 points. For anybody who didn't see that, that's coming from the weapons. The Plasma and Volcano Lance went up 40 and 60 points for each one of them, for respective each ones. Also, for all knights, not just the Castellan, they said that no matter what you do, the best you can get is a 4++ invulnerable save. So, opinion doesn't change anything for me if I'm playing a Castellan. For anybody who's playing Guard, Castellan, Blood Angels, you're happier than ever. For anybody who's playing a straight knight army, you are still okay. One of the main things that we've talked about on our Patreon page, right, is Sean and I, is that we move away from House Raven. Go to House Crast. Look at your Warlord trait that says you can reroll ones to hit, and then you have a CP reroll for one of your shooting attacks as well. That's a poor man's or a blue collar man's House Raven for free. And now you're telling me that you just say, yes, you're right, I'm not going to get to a 3++. But also, Kenny, guess what went away a lot? If people think that Castellans aren't good, if you bring the one Castellan, you don't have to worry about the mirror match and all that offensive output. So a 4-up invulnerable is okay. Double shooting Dark Eldar Yannari, Dark Reapers aren't a thing, right? So, I mean, a lot of elements of massive firepower. So for anybody who thinks, and you guys heard me go on rants and raves talking about the Castellan is keeping a lot of things at bay. If people do completely wash their hands because of this CP and because of the 4++ is the best you can get, and because of the 100-point increase, we are going to see a massive influx in Magnus and Mortys, in tank commanders, guard, artillery is going to come back. There's a lot of things that was doing really good that we're going to see all over again.
So, just to readdress things on the chatted us, copy and pasted the wrong text in asking their questions. The bikers do count as infantry for purposes of setting up, which I would assume means the teleportarium. So they still can deep strike, but they count as bikers for the beta bolter rule. So yes and no, we were provided incorrect information in chat, while the same chatter is constantly not shutting up about it.
There it is. It happens.
So thank you for that correction, but give us the right information to go on in the first place, so we don't have to read a million pages.
That's not fair. Thank you for fact checking us. Apparently, they can still deep strike. So
I don't care either way. I'm just reading it because you guys are talking. So yes, they can still deep strike.
Still deep strike. Deathwatch still real good?
I think so. I'm still going to play him.
Oh, real good. Absolutely. Auto include with Fly coming back. I don't think it's an auto include for, 3 detachments in an Imperium army.
So with the Castellan, though, 100 more points, can't be 3-up invulnerable. All it does, in my opinion, is change the meta. It's not enough. Now, instead of like every time you made an Imperial army, you had one of those. Now you might make something different. And then if enough people do that, we come up with new combos, new ideas. I think it's really good for the game. Super happy about it because also Castellans are annoying in their current iteration. Pretty cool. You got any experience playing against those things, Haspel?
Nope. Easy answer. Nope.
I will say, we use this phrase quite a few times. If you are playing in a local meta, please put your ear to the ground to listen to what everyone else in your local meta is doing. If everybody is moving away from a Castellan, watch what happens when you're the only one that brings one to your local GT, right? To your GTs. Watch what happens. Those guys are still just game breaking.
What's interesting about the Castellan now, though, is before in a Castellan on Castellan match with the rotate to a 3-up, Castellans couldn't kill Castellans. Now it's whoever's Castellan shoots first kills the other Castellan.
Yeah, a lot of that could be very true, right? Like, you're completely right.
He's alpha strikeable now. Like,
sure.
Yeah, in a Castellan mirror before, you had to use your Castellan to shoot everything else in your opponent's army because they really couldn't kill each other.
You wasted shots, yeah.
The efficiency wasn't great. So if you were the Castellan player that tried to like hammer through the other person's Castellan, you would kill it, but you wouldn't kill it until the rest of your army was already probably dead. Now, whoever's Castellan shoots first immediately creates a 700-point supremacy on the tabletop.
That's a really interesting point. Let's slide into Grey Knights and Assassins. We have a lot to cover tonight. We're going to be turning this one over to Haspel to talk about let's spearhead with the Grey Knight conspiracy or controversy. They got nerfed, Haspel. They're unplayable now. They got nerfed.
Yeah, they've been unplayable, and I know a guy who did some serious work just won a GT in Australia with them, so I'll never hear the end of it. Apparently they're fine and they're one of the best armies or whatever. It's like, no, this guy is like really, really good. So one of the big controversies has been going on for years now, honestly, is that a Grey Knight Grandmaster could get a 2-up save with a combination of either Sanctuary, which is psychic power, or a Warlord trait that would up the invulnerable save by 1. So that gives them a 3-up. Then people would play Heed the Prognosticators, and the verbiage of it said something along the lines of, until the start of your next turn, the invulnerable save of that character is improved by 1 or whatever. It would alter your saving throw was the language that it would say. It would say like add 1 to your saving throw instead of adds 1 to the invulnerable save. So people were saying it was different language and that they would stack and you could get a 2-up invul save on that, even though Sanctuary said already that it could not be improved to a maximum of 3-up. So folks were using order of operations to get this like 2-up save. And it was kind of a controversy among Grey Knight players because there were people that said that you could absolutely do it because the verbiage was different. And why have different verbiage? I'm like, guys, have you ever played a Games Workshop game ever? The rules are not exactly locked tight. Well, they put out a clarification on that. That's the way I see it. Now, a lot of people see it as a nerf, where they cleared up the Heed the Prognosticators now says to a maximum of a 3-up, bringing it in line with just about every other invul save thing out there, right? And I think the Necron Wraiths can still do one if you have like a Nihilak special stratagem. It adds 1 to your save or something like that if you didn't move or something. They
have to stand Nephilim objective, so they're locked in place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they're locked in place. So there's still some stuff out there, but on this Grey Knight thing, in my opinion, Grey Knights did not get nerfed any more than they already were. They except for like the Beta Bolter thing, because now Land Raider Crusaders and the Storm Raven can't use the Hurricane Bolters, as they're back to normal. No, they can't use the Beta Bolter rule, but they didn't get nerfed, in my opinion. They just got clarified that something that was a little bit on the fence, shady to begin with, is now like, hey, you can't do it.
GW, after the trauma that was 7th edition, 2-up invulnerables, 2-up rollables, et cetera. After that, GW has made it clear that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. They even have gotten rid of a lot of the 3-up invuls in the game on anything larger than a Space Marine. Yeah.
It's feel bad as a city. When
they got rid of him for all like the greater demons, anything like that.
It is feel badsies.
It's not even though like in your mind you're like, why wouldn't this guy? No. It's just we're talking about game mechanics now. Objective game analytics. It's feel bad.
Yeah.
So that's been their emotion. That's been their clear emotion since 7th edition ended.
Because there is a massive difference between a Grey Knight Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dread Knight with a 2-up invul, and a Grey Knight Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dread Knight with a 3-up invul. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's double
in that. Yeah, it's massive.
It's double, and any reroll, you can have multiple rerolls built in. It becomes like what? Like we said, 1 in 30. You have to do 36 wounds to do 1 on a 2-up. We know this math because of Death Stars.
Yeah.
So Haspel, hit us with assassins real quick.
Yeah. So the other rule, and this one, I also don't think it's a nerf. I think that when the assassins rule dropped in White Dwarf, it was almost too good to be true, right? You could take 3 different assassins. You could keep 1 in reserve for the stratagem, and bring in any kind of assassin for 85 points extra to double up on 1 or make a 4th or whatever. It was almost too good to be true. It was really great. It started a lot of discussion about 40K sideboards, stuff like that and everything. So I think they didn't really nerf it. They just brought it back down to reality, So all the assassins still stay the same price, which is fantastic. They did bring in line that the stratagem is 2 CP for everybody across the board. It's 2 CP, which honestly, for being able to bring in any kind of assassin to tailor it to the opponent you're facing,
it's reasonable.
That's reasonable. It's worth it. And then the other big change that they did is now you can't just like be doubling up and stuff, because you can't use that stratagem if your army contains any Officio Assassinorum units. So if you have assassins already, you can't use the stratagem. You can only use it if you don't have any assassins, and then you can drop them in. But I'm like, when I get back to playing my Imperium armies, I'm definitely going to be using that. It's too good.
It's way too good. I absolutely love the assassins. The 2 CP, I've been saying this over the last couple of days to a lot of people. It's like we spend CP so frivolously right now. Left and right, you take CP. I am so down to pay 2 or 3. It wouldn't stop me if you told me it was 3 CP to get your assassin in. It wouldn't stop me at all. I do have to say, I thought it was a little strange. Did it bother anybody else? Or I feel like it caught me off guard when they said that if I took the assassin force, that I couldn't in addition have another assassin.
Yeah,
I thought that was a little strange.
It was what that's the whole beginning of the discussion. Though, is like it was too good to be true.
Yeah.
Like this is one of them is an infusion. One of them is the entree. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's redundant to have them both, and it doesn't make sense.
What I find interesting too is with the assassin thing coming out, a lot of players have been building in this 85 point reinforcement points into their lists. But it also lines up with the new Castellan nerf of being 100 points.
It's 15
so
points.
So all those players, they only have to find they can make that choice, either keep their Castellan in the rest of their list or take the assassin. And if they keep the Castellan, they only have to find 15 points.
Which is cool because the assassin
they're really
was
not
new.
searching. They're really not searching for 100 points.
They were playing without the assassin for months. They found the 85 points for the assassin. And now they're just right back to the original list. Now they got to find 15. I can see the Castellan still being semi-popular, even though I think it's going to start being less popular over time, at least in the hyper-competitive scene. I think in the mid-tier, it's going to be just as common, and it's going to be just like you said.
Yeah, because they already have those points. They already found a way to make those points happen.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let's sling it over to Juice. Let's talk about G-Steel Occult. Some interesting things happen that directly affect them that also affect other people.
Yep. So GSC, going down on what the FAQ has changed. So couple things are, first off, only once a game right now, 0 to 1 use only for the stratagem, allowing GSC players to pop up 3 inches from you. Kenny, I think that phrase you just said is best. Is too good to be true. No one else in the game of 40K can pop up 3 inches from you out of Deep Strike. That doesn't exist. Matter of fact, GW has done their damnedest to stop people from being able to move after showing up. Move even if they were on the board after they've been placed and went back. They went into that saying you can't dark matter crystal or move after you've already been placed on the board again for even 4.
They don't like you being able to safely do everything you just said. Like they have no problems with you assaulting. No problems with you rolling a 12-inch charge. They don't have any problems with you actually making contact.
Sure.
Fist on chin. They don't have a problem with that. They don't like it when you can
Guarantees.
do it. You can do it with literally no threat to your unit. Right? And that's the issue. So you can do it totally safely with no threat. They have said, in our opinion, or in their game theory, their vision, you can't do it. You have to roll a 9 on turn 2. So G-Steel Occult get to break it, but now they only get to break it once.
Yeah, they get to break that 9 inchness in different ways, right? So they have stratagems that will allow them to get extra movement.
A 7
with perfect advancing.
You can do a 7 every turn, but that auto charge, it's once. Right?
No, not the auto. The extra D6 inches of movement or shooting in the movement phase, I can do that as many times as I want. It's 3 CP. But showing up 3 inches from you. Now, there's also the caveat that I can't charge out of that. But just popping up units 3 inches away from you, you can only do that stratagem once per game. So that is a major hit. I use that stratagem three times in the games a lot of times because I'm popping in and out of reserve, right? So I'm using that a lot from turns 2 on. So I do like the fact that they clarified a lot saying that any cool stratagems I have access to, don't try to do it on turn 1. You can't. We said it before, been preaching it. Don't try to think that you can use some of these stratagems and abilities on turn 1. That's not that wasn't the point of it. Another thing that they went into was mental onslaught. That was, to be honest, I had a problem with mental onslaught. I had a problem with it so much because it was like so point and click that I didn't even really run it in my army, even though it was one of the best things that GSC has. Now, I would incorporate it, but I wouldn't go for that perfect combo or other characters to mess with people's leadership. But the concept, and I know Sean and I, again, we've talked about this in length, that we loved so much how they changed the verbiage on this and Death Grip that Night Titans can do, where, yes, it is a roll-off. Yes, the player who is the most advantageous for it is the one death gripping, is the one mental onslaughting. They've got the dice stacked in their favor. But guess what? Instead of limiting it, instead of saying it's a max of 6 wounds, a max of 5 wounds, or whatever else, right? They said if the opponent rolls a natural 6, it's done. They stop. They get away, which I love. Right, Kenny? That is something that they've always said now in this edition. 6 is, for the most part, always wins.
They want to make they want to make the concept of rolling a 6 exciting, and they have.
Yep, and that's they found another way to do this. Now, that is an absolute nerf. Someone could just roll a 6 from Jump Street, and you're like, oh, I didn't do any mortal wounds. Or your opponent cannot roll a damn 6, right? And you've with mental onslaught, and I'm at a +4 to my leadership because you're at some minuses and whatnot. So you really got to roll a 6, right? So you could actually run, bangerang 12 to 16 wounds off, right? On a good roll. But as we play a dice game, if they wanted to cap this at 6 wounds by just saying a natural roll of a 6, what's going to happen every time, mathematically, they say, every time you roll 6 dice, one of them should be a 1, one should be a 6. So that is potentially still a nerf. Also, one of the last things that they did was they said that the Rusted Claw bike thing that I'll say that I put to fruition and put into motion right at Adepticon, where I take this fatty bike star and I'm popping up and I'm using strats and I'm using abilities and I'm shooting and using strats in the movement phase and I'm shooting and using strats in the shooting phase. They have summarized all that up into a couple basic sentences to say, if you are doing an act that is not in the appropriate phase, any auras, abilities, all that kind of stuff is perfectly acceptable, except stratagems. Stratagems can only be used in the phase in which they are. So, for example, I want you to know this is somebody else that it hurts. The Rusted Claw bike trick that I did at Adepticon is absolutely illegal now. You cannot use the Rusted Claw strat, it says in the shooting phase, in your movement phase, as if it's the shooting phase. You can't use that strat, but you can use all other abilities, right? So another thing, Tyranids with Kraken abilities, where they're moving as if it's the movement, and then you double in the movement phase, you double your abilities. So I don't believe, I need to relook at the verbiage, but I don't believe Swarm Lord, you're not going to be able to double your advance roll in the shooting phase to be able to help slingshot them those 40 inches across the board. And I'm just thinking about this out loud. I need to pull out the book. I really think that it's going to hinder some of that those Kraken elements speed. So either way, all of that is really bad, right? Sounds just, some people will stop playing GSC because of it. Well, thank you, GW. You have fixed my specific problems. Because the number one thing that they did walking away from this FAQ is that they gave us Cloud of Flies in its fullest form. Lurking in the shadows, I believe, is the stratagem. It says if a unit is wholly within cover and is not the closest unit, the opponent cannot shoot at them. How unbelievable is that? You're telling me, right? So it's just a good stratagem in its base. They have fixed it in the FAQ to say remove the cover. This unit can only be shot at if it's the closest unit. That right there in itself, I'll give up not being able to shoot. I'll give up mental onslaught, any other things that we just showcased to now say that I can put a Rocksaw unit on the ground. I have the flexible capability to put characters strategically out behind line of sight blocking terrain where that's the closest actual unit, but you can't target them because you can't see them, right? And then all of a sudden I've got this fatty Rocksaw unit chilling, looks like to be out in the open, but is unengageable.
Truly powerful. Targeting shenanigans are some of my favorite parts of the game, which will come up in my section. But for now, we're going to be moving on to Rob. He's going to be covering some of the Imperial Armor, Forge World, FAQ subjects. None of us.
Forge World still exists.
It's a thing, apparently.
Some people like to play with it, especially with Apocalypse coming out. You gotta get your fix now. Get all your stuff ready. See what's gonna happen. I guess one of the biggest things is the Steel Behemoth rule for most of the large tanks for Astra Militarum, Space Marines, and Hellforge is now you can still fire them even if your enemies are within 1 inch. And in a lot of cases you can shoot it down, but there's specific wordage like certain cannons and certain guns, things like Vindicator cannon or Demolishing cannons. And I think the Typhon cannon can't shoot at anything unless, if it's at 1 inch, it has to be further past, which makes sense because, they used to be blast templates. So that kind of made sense. But that's pretty neat because you used to be able to they didn't have that rule. And you're like, why don't they have this rule? Because literally like a Baneblade can do it. So that was really cool that they added it to that. I don't know if they're like super viable. They're just funsies. But it's really cool to see. I can't think of anything else super big in the Imperial Armor kind of side of things right off the top of my head. But that one definitely stuck out to me. Yeah.
What about the Custody stuff? Did anything get addressed there?
As far as I know, the beta Custody stuff's still beta. They didn't really say anything, so I guess it's still beta-ish.
That's interesting that they wouldn't address it.
I couldn't find where they said anything about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I looked all over, high and low. But
well, I thought there was more.
Good.
I thought there was more. I guess I was wrong.
There isn't there. Yeah, there. I'm just thinking. I'm like, that was the big stuff. I mean, what do you guys see on the tabletops for Forge World now? Like maybe the C-beams, but
C-beams are popular. I mean, that's our boy Jay Veazey made C-beamers popular suddenly.
Leviathans, or will always be
Leviathans.
Around.
I mean,
Doritos.
Yeah, Doritos because of Don Husen. He made those just popular. I've been running Decimators for a while. Still got them. They're actually in my model build list right now. So Forge World real good, especially for model faction chaos. Like no doubt. Speaking of chaos, I'll slingshot into a little chaos segment.
There you go.
We're gonna pull this off right now. Chaos is huge. It's amorphous. There's almost too much to cover. It can be its own podcast because it's got all the newest stuff. It got a 2.0 decks, Shadow Spear, Vigilus, so many things applied to it. We got Demonkin. Oh my God. So many things. Highlights right at the gate. Renegade Legions, they got this cool thing where you have to take marks. So if you're not familiar with that, we'll just use Purge for an example. We talked about it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Purge has always historically been a Nurgle Traitor Legion. Now they are. Like you can't take units that aren't Nurgle. You can't take any other mark. So you can't do Endless Cacophony and other shenanigans with that. That's just a little example of what I mean. They've outlined what Traitor Legions are aligned to what marks. In the end, you can't go outside of them. That's pretty interesting. Real quick, they everything we said would happen with Obliterators. They are 115 points. The Codex was a misprint. Big fucking shocker. Huge one, which I recently discovered, was Legion traits, which if you guys remember back in the day, it was like Infantry, Biker, Hellbrute. You got the Legion trait. Then they like rapid fire were like, also Demon Princes. So what they meant to say was characters. Well, now they did. So therefore, the Lord D, the new Lord Discordant, can benefit from Legion traits. He can be a Red Corsair and he can always advance a charge. He could be Alpha Legion, have be -1 to hit. The sky's the limit with that stuff. Chaos, they got, I mean, like I said, it's a billion things. But it was also kind of a shit show because they forgot to put a lot of things in magenta.
The hidden points.
Some of the hidden points, but we talked about chaos a lot today. Like I do my own private Facebook class, and obviously the one everyone's been Facebooking me about is the Demon Princes. Demon Princess is 0 to 3 now. How long have we been talking about that? How many months ago did we like it was when the Tau Codex came out? Somebody figure out that date. When the Tau Codex came out, it said commanders were 0 to 3, and everyone was mad, and we all thought that meant all commander level characters were going to be 0 to 3. And then they came out with the they came out with the rule of 3, and we were like, oh, here it is. Demon Princes are fucked. You go take 3. No, you can actually take 10 Demon Princes. So GW came out. First time I've ever read this in an FAQ. We were wrong. This was asked of us before. And now we changed our mind. You can only take 3 Demon Princes, the end. So, you guys may know, I like to run 7 Demon Princes sometimes. So, I don't see it as a nerf. I see it as bringing us back to reality. Like, character exploiting, character abuse, that makes the game less good, that makes us less good as players. Makes us not scheme. It makes us not come up with new combos. So at the end of the day, these are amazing things. Like I said, we can do a whole episode on Chaos, but instead we'll slow roll it. We'll probably do a second episode on Chaos. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, because here's the thing the internet's really been ablaze about. Eldar.
They got stronger, right? They're still the best codex? No? Did things change?
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
The sky has fallen on the Eldar Empire. The Lord is dead. Not.
I was about to shed a silent tear from an Eldar Xenos filth.
Not. There's some major changes for Eldar. The biggest one is obviously psychic powers. They are now defined to only work for faction. This mainly applies to Doom and Jinx, and to a lesser extent, Reveal was also included in there. But so Doom and Jinx, now the benefits of those, lowering people's saves and rerolling a wound, only apply to the Asuryani, the Craft World Eldars, the classic old school Eldar. They no longer help the Dark Eldar. They no longer help the Harlequins. They no longer help Ynnari. Also, Ynnari's psychic powers are worded the same way. We got that leak right before the FAQ, and that White Dwarf came out today, I believe. So we saw those powers. They're only applied to the Ynnari. So everything is separate in the Eldar races now, to an extent that it hasn't been in a long time. Also, combined with that, Ynnari got hit with their new index, their new codex, and they lost the ability to act twice. They don't even have any stratagems that let them act again, which is a huge, huge change for them from that army. And they also lost the ability to use stratagems from their parent codexes on their units. So they have their own new list of stratagems. There aren't very many good ones. There's a couple little gems and nuggets between their psychic powers and their strats that can be used, but they've drastically changed. They are no longer, I used to describe it this way. Ynnari was an almost auto include for Eldar. It was a never include for Dark Eldar, and it was a sometimes include for Harlequins. Now it's an almost never include for Eldar, still sometimes include for Harlequins. And I think the biggest benefits of the new Ynnari are the Dark Eldar, and especially the Witch Cults. I think there's a lot of play for them in there, especially if at one point we ever get good point costs for things like Hellions or some of their units that are a little overcosted right now. But there's a lot of play, and I think there's a lot of new army lists that'll come out of the Eldar Codex and the Dark Eldar Codex and the combined Eldari races. I'm really excited for the next several months. It's really rejuvenating my thought process, because my list had basically hit final form. I went from LVO, changed like one unit, was like, that's all I'm going to change for Adepticon, you know.
Solid Dragon Ball Z reference right there. I mean, but it's true. I would say if we were going to summarize, like obviously we're going to do a 2-part episode because this just happened. We're still struggling to read all the content. Everyone's got their own lens when reading an FAQ, like how it affects them. It's going to take us a while to compile all this information, and we'll definitely hit you with more detail next week. But here's the thing. This FAQ is the FAQ of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
This FAQ absolutely changes enough dynamics of the game. Fly keyword, right? That alone. Do we even mention that?
We did not mention that.
Fuck.
So,
oh my God.
So powerful.
I think everybody's tracking that one though.
Like, I mean, yeah, these are basics. We didn't even cover the basic ones, right? But like simple game mechanics.
What it does to the game is, we're talking about what are individual factions, right? But like as an entire whole, units being able to jump over other units in the chart is unbelievable.
It's crazy. So this is the edition now. Like now we're in my opinion, now we're in 8th edition 2.0. We've gotten all these codexes. Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of FAQs. GW is finally un-Q&A'd Q&As from the past. They've defined certain game mechanics that on the surface are very simple, but have huge ramifications in the game. We are now back to scheming. And when you get this community to scheming, that's when the new lists show up. As to Sean's point, his list hit final form. Now he gets to go back and come up with a new list that gets to eventually achieve final form status. Like, that's how I feel about this FAQ.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, orcs. Are you kidding me? I think orcs walk away as one of the biggest losers. As a girth of the entire orc population for anybody who plays. We're talking about the boys and the Ludas and things like this. I will say, I think Eldar. We have seen FAQ after chapter approve after FAQ after chapter approve, where nothing is actually done to people's satisfaction when it comes to Eldar. That the buck stops here. Eldar got their shins kicked in.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now.
To a lot of people,
if they want to come after you Eldar players, you out there, they want to come after you. And I've heard so many complaints. I have one of my good buddies who's been complaining that Eldar and Yunari are the top dog these last blah 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 months or whatever. And I was like,
they're not.
I was like, they're not. Point to me the data. I was like. He's like, oh, well, on BCP for all of 8th edition, they're winning 70% of their games or this, that. And I'm like, for across the whole edition, I don't care about that. Look at the results of events.
What have you done for me lately?
What Eldar players are winning? What
they're not.
What Yunari
it's
players
chaos,
are winning?
Sir.
I was like, and this player is a chaos player, so that makes it really funny for me.
It's chaos. Okay, realistically, it's Imperium. Imperium is the best still, or what? At least until this moment. And a close second is Chaos. And big shocker, these are the two biggest super factions in the game, right?
Yeah, they have the most codexes, the most books. And
Eldar is a close
Eldar.
Eldar's a close third with the other the other super factions. So the three super factions have been alternating position, right? Like there was a time when it was all Chaos all the time, couldn't even be discussed. Then there was a time when Eldar all the time couldn't be discussed. But for more of those times, it was Imperium.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so that's my thing. But now with all this stuff that has just been piled upon the Eldar, if we start running through tournaments again, and I start running through tournaments again, I don't want to hear one word of, oh, Eldar, still OP. Yeah.
I'm a straight Eldar.
They came for us. They came for us this weekend. Yeah. They came for us.
It's just like you said, though. There's you're going to go back to your Beats Lab. You're going to come up with new combos. Eldar units at their base stat line and their base interactions are still very, very solid.
Yeah.
Like there's more to be seen.
The mono, I think, list that didn't change not in one bit is a Eldar flyer list. That is all Eldar. No Harlequins, no Dark Eldar. A 5 Eldar flyer list is still going to table someone's ass in 2 turns.
And a lot of
all their
doom
lists were
well, they were comboing Dark Eldar a lot.
I mean,
move away from them. But get rid of them. They're stupid now because you don't get to interact with Doom. Like it's trash. You just go hemlocks more. Instead of 3 Dark Eldar flyers, just take now where most people were only taking 1 Hemlock Wraith Fighter and 3 Crimson X Arches, and then 3 Dark Eldar flyers. Dumpster fire all those and just take 2 more Crimson Hunters, and all of a sudden
you have sprinkle in some Wave Serpents. So you don't
right?
get
Like
boots.
that
So
is
good.
a straight Eldar army is, in my opinion, didn't change almost at all.
Like
Because
realistically,
again, they still get access to the Dooms. They still get access
Yeah.
to using all the other overlap. You still get Dark Reapers, which are
Fire and
amazing.
Fade still exists.
Yeah.
So it's still there. It's fucking-
So, mono, if somebody comes mono, like it's a little different. It is what it is. Play a powerful army.
But it's crazy.
But-
We've been thinking, this is the first time in a long time we've been thinking strictly in terms of mono too.
Correct.
Because think
How
about
many
it.
times do we bring it up now, Kenny?
It's like nonstop because it's one simple thing, and I can't say it enough. Frontline Gaming.
Yep.
They are the heroes we deserve. With what they've done and what they've achieved with the tournament pro tour, getting people excited for 40K, tracking stats. What are the biggest stats people love to track? Because you got to realize there's only going to be one fucking winner. At the end of the day, though, you've got these factions, and people can still have hope and still keep playing to be these winners. With this one little tweak to this pro tour of like, you got to be a mono faction, we're constantly scheming mono factions now. And I'm not saying that's it. Like I'm not playing a mono faction Bear Open this month. I'm playing Chaos. But I'm working toward a mono faction later this year. And that's what we're thinking about that. The game is super interesting now. And partly because of an external source and partly because of an internal source. GW is really starting to regain a little of my faith in them after years.
After you, dude, Kenny, I completely agree with that feeling. GW has now, not only have they knocked out codexes, the supplement codexes, like these vigilances, like they've done a really great job. I'm even past the concept of I have to own so many books. That's dead on me, right? Like I was mad at that in 7th edition, and even at the beginning of 8th, because I saw through the writing of, these points are going to be in the back of the books. Like we won't have to carry around so many. It's like, that's all bullshit. We're going to have 1 million books still, but I don't care, because you want to know what? I'll buy brand new books every 4 months, every 5 months if I have to. Keep giving us solid rules. Keep giving us all this love like you are, and I'm happy as shit.
That's what the White Dwarf's for, because you basically got to buy it every other month to get that sweet
right? But
content.
like, you think about that, like those White Dwarfs books that have come out recently, magazines, that's feeding my fuel of trust into GW. Right?
Yeah, you make content for a living. Keep making it. Make it on a fucking prolific scale, and I will fucking consume it as long as you care about what I care about. Like, and they do. They've proven it. This FAQ has made me so happy. So fucking happy.
Yep. Tight rules.
Yeah.
Fixing some things. I love the snarkiness of their comments and kind of their designer commentaries. I think that whether people pay them to show up to their events, whether they do it on their own dime, whether they, whatever the case may be, them having boots on the ground, checking it out, having the high class, high skill level, high influential game testers has absolutely influenced their rules. All in all, we're constantly, I think GW is creating a unicorn.
It's true story, man.
Or at least a Sasquatch.
Squatch. But I don't want to turn our show off too early, but I can't reiterate this enough. There is more to be discussed with this FAQ. Give it a week, guys. Be patient. I know some people out there are reading 4-hour episodes of their podcasts. We don't believe in that type of content. It's not digestible. Give this crew another week. Make sure you're hitting us up on Facebook and all the other social medias so we can interact with your interests, because we are kind of a liaison. We want to scale our content to what people are interested in. Thank you guys earlier in this episode for helping us clarify the Death Watch stuff. That's a primary example of how things unfold here on the After Hours. If you're listening to this on the road to your way to work in the final form, call back, Sean Naden. You're hearing something different. Next week, I expect us to bring some lists, some new fucking hotness, maybe a new Castellan tech, because I imagine everything's gonna change in a week. That's how it rolls.
I'd like to go over my list that I came up with. I play tested the shit out of it, and it's really not changing.
What is your list?
You guys think?
Do it right now. 6
Right now?
minutes. 6 minutes.
All right, hold on a sec.
Do you have it in your pocket?
Yeah, I got it. I mean, I put pants on today. I might as well use them.
And Rob, real quick, when you said you play test the shit out of, give me the over under on how many games.
10.
Get out of
That's
Rob,
amazing.
That is amazing. You want to know what? I was going to check out during this segment, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. No, I played a bunch actually.
Let's do it.
Strangely enough.
This list is immune to the FAQ.
It is. I'm pretty happy with
That's
it.
Custodes, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
3 Orion gunships.
No. Silly. All right, here we go. So we got, let me double check. Yeah, this looks all right. Okay. So we got battalion. This was a battalion. Yep, battalion. So 2 smash captains, obviously.
Ooh.
3 scouts, close combat weapon scouts. Right? So we're blood angels, yeah. And that's why I was doing these ghillie suit dudes with the cheesecloth, because I'm not gonna paint blue scouts and then red scouts. They're just gonna be like kind of chilling forward operators. So then we got Custodes battalion, Valoris, Shield Captain on Dong Eagle Jetbike, of course, Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought. So that's the one with the Guardian Spear, the Dreadnought with the Guardian Spear. I think it's a boost. Vexillus. So he's just gonna walk up the board. You know, everybody's gonna stand behind him if I have to. What's that?
Is it the -1 to hit or +1 attack?
Yeah, which one is it? I think it's called the Magnifica or something.
Yeah, -1 to hit. Okay.
He also, and I forget the little trick, he has a radiant mantle. I forget what that did. I have to look, as soon as I look at it, I'll know. But I think that's the like super negative modifier to, where is it? Your warlord must subtract. Okay, so yeah, he's -1 to hit, but then he's also another -1, I think, from the. Yeah, so he himself is -2 to hit.
6.
And then everybody else around him is -1 to hit within 6. So he kind of like holds the line and walks up the table, potentially, or you drop him in behind, whatever. I got 3 Caladius grav tanks with the accelerator cannon.
3.
Gladiuses, yeah, those things are good.
We talked about those.
Yep.
They're fun. Then I got a brigade of guard. So the loyal 42 here, and 2 squads of mortars.
I can't say anything negative about that list.
Firepower.
And smash captains.
Smash captains. You have 14 CP. Smells good.
It's a lot of CP. I mean, you know how to smash captains.
Battalion, Vanguard.
Yep.
Yep. I like it.
It's a real good list.
Rob, I can get behind this list. You have firepower. You have rerolls.
And there's 85 points left over too.
Nice. Nice.
Real quick.
Nicely done.
That is the loyal 42 you said. That's because of characters and mortars. That's not because you have 4 infantry units.
No, I have 4 infantry.
So you have now 3 infantry and 3 squads of mortars.
Probably. There's some wiggle room in the list.
That's what you have now. That's what he's saying.
That's what you practiced with, but now moving forward, you'll have 9 mortars instead of those extra 10 bodies. Yep. Yeah. No, I like that. Robbie B, I like that list, homie. It's
pretty fun. It's got some play because you can drop in the Vexilla in the back, and then the big problem I was having was deep striking off the Vexilla and then trying to charge 9 inches there's no way to reroll. Well, besides your reroll, but there's no way to get any bonuses to charging off the Vexilla. So I was like missing all these charges. And then I realized that there was a strat you can play. So you can bring them in within 3 inches of the Vexilla. So you can be all up in people's grills. And then you just appear and you're like, hello. So that makes charging a little easier. And, I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that one.
Look at this guy. We're all over here to come up with new lists, and he's like, my list still works. It got better because fly keyword.
I love it.
And then I can sub out that whole Custodes, just throw that out, sub in Death Watch, the two big, two decent squads that everybody runs. 1 5-man squad with frag cannons, a Corvus, and the Watchmaster too. So I can go gold or I can go black. Just whatever.
I like where you list that. Very impressed with it, Rob.
I did it all by myself.
You did, man.
I'm a big boy.
You're real life.
It's almost all painted too. Yeah.
Nice.
No doubt. Well, I think we did it. I think that's a good foray into the big FAQ. Rob, do that thing.
Hasbro, take us out.
Now and then, every once in a very long while, every day in a million days, when the wind stands fair and the doctor comes to call, everybody lives.